Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Virtual CISO Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, John Verry. And with me, as always, the Sundance kid to my Butch Cassidy. Really, we can't do better than that. Jeremy Sporn.
Hello,
Did you run out of
everyone.
time? Did you run out of time preparing?
No, I really just wanted to say hello, Butch, to you, to your face. That's really all I wanted to say. And now my dream has been realized, and we can move on.
Is this getting even for me for the Wally Pip one last week that I surprised you with?
That's basically it. And at this time, I make you choose between getting the girl, because the Sundance kid gets the girl, or being the leader of the group, and I'll take either. So that's fine by me.
If I knew which one did which, don't they both die in the end in a bloody shootout?
You got that one right, unfortunately.
So we couldn't have. So can we re-record this with names that don't die in a bloody battle? Is that sort of like the Alamo or something that they died at?
Yeah, but we're still heroes. It's okay. 73rd on the best American movies list, so I'm feeling pretty good about our tandem here.
Look, I me, I prefer to think of myself as Brad Pitt-ish, but okay, well, we'll save that for another episode.
Sure.
So did you have a chance to listen to my conversation with Cosmo Gazzani?
I did, and fair warning to anyone who's going to stick with us and listen to the conversation, business continuity has to be one of the least sexy topics in information security, but for better or for worse, one of the most important that needs to be addressed because it's underserved and it costs companies and people just a lot because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the statistics, I mean, I forget what exactly. I mean, he might even bring it up in there, but there's what is it? 50% of companies don't survive a major business continuity outage or something incredible like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think the exact percentage from FEMA was 40% who experience an outage that lasts longer than a few days don't last another year. And so it's absolutely dreadful. What I think is the most surprising is how matter-of-fact Cosmo can be about BCDR. And there's this cool thing where he talks about, you just have to ask yourself one question. Can your business survive without its data? And if the answer to the question is, you need your data to survive, for your business to survive, then you need to address it. And it's really that simple. And I don't think you need to overcomplicate any more past that. I think he does a good job of explaining why it's so key.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And one of the things that I enjoyed about the episode and I think is valuable is we talked about what the terms disaster recovery, business continuity, and what I prefer to say is IT continuity. And I think that, that is one of those areas that I think is so confusing for a lot of people. So it might be worth listening just to kind of understand the differentiation, because I think it puts different ideas in your head.
I couldn't agree more. So today, guest Cosmo Gazzani, Director of Business Development Continuity, the Director of Business Development, really a sales guy at heart, at Continuity Centers and Wekos. It's kind of cool because he's a sales guy. He really gets that business side of BCDR, and that comes through as well. So anyone who's not a information security guru and sits more on that COO, CEO side of things, you'll appreciate his perspective. So let's do this thing, John.
You're not going to say the last line that you had on my script here?
It felt right to just go to the show. Yeah. I go from the soul. You just got to right from here.
I kind of feel like you're really mailing this one in, to be honest with you. So so expect to walk away with an understanding of why BDCR. Come on, finish your script.
Expect to walk away with an understanding of why BCDR should not be ignored and some simple guidance on how you can improve your BCDR without breaking the bank. You're welcome, John.
Much better. Let's get to the show.
Let's do it.
Cosmo, how are you today?
All right, John, how you doing?
Good to catch up.
Yeah.
So we like to start these easy. So I'm going to ask you what your name is and what you do. That should get you off on a good start here. So, give me a quick idea about that.
All right. So my name is Cosmo Gazzani. I'm a I'm business development director for Continuity Centers and Wekos, combined companies. We focus in continuity business continuity, disaster recovery.
We have a tradition that, where I always ask people, what's your drink of choice? So whether that's for thinking, whether that's for relaxing, what's your drink of choice? Or maybe you've got multiple drinks of choice.
Well, I mean, on the strong side, let's put it this way. My name is Cosmo Gazzani, right? So you know where I come from, right?
Uzo?
Italian heritage.
Are we going Uzo?
No, not Greek, Italian.
Oh, it's Italian.
So yeah. So from that, I pretty much have red wine flowing in my veins. My father used to actually be a winemaker, amateur at that, but still was a winemaker. I mean, we used to drink wine out of jugs. Today we drink them out of bottles, and it has become an expensive habit. But that said,
Italian?
Wine. Yeah.
Wine is still Italians mostly, or have you diversified and do you go to Californias as well?
Oh, it's all over. Californians, Italians, French. Yeah, I love wine. Let's put it that way.
I drink red wine a lot of nights as well, and I will tell you this is that after having gone to Italy and experiencing wine in a very different way than you experience it here, I will tell you, I think there's something different about California wines, and I don't know what it is, but I actually prefer Californians and prefer Italians and drink an awful lot of Italians these days.
Oh, sure. They don't call it $2 chuck out there. They call it $2 chaloots, which is a lot better.
The only problem is I can't afford the ones that I like, from down the Piedmont region. They get kind of expensive for me, so I'm stuck drinking a Zin from Italy that I like quite a bit for a reasonable price point. So let's get to what you're here to chat about, right? Your expertise is in, like you said, business continuity, disaster recovery, things of that nature. And one of the things that I see as a confusion is, you hear terms disaster recovery, you hear terms business continuity, you hear terms IT continuity. Want to clear that up for folks?
Sure. So some overlapping definitions there for each one of those terms, right? But let's start with disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is really the process of recovering from a disaster, just like the name states, right? First and foremost, you need to figure out what the disaster affected, right? Did it affect your facilities? Did it affect your systems, your power, your accessibility to your data? It's really a process of recovering from a disaster. As opposed to business continuity, which is basically bringing your business back into operation. So I know that's still kind of convoluted, but basically what that means is getting your business to the way it was when it was in production, right? How you get back to an operational state, alternate workspaces, valid backups of your data, having those, what processes in place to make sure that your business is back up and running. It involves a lot of testing, a lot of planning, right? So business continuity starts with something called a business impact assessment. You're looking at how your business can run and what the critical needs of your business are to keep it running. Doing the testing and exercises behind that, right? So not just saying, yep, here's what we need to run our business in case of a disaster or an extended outage, but testing those points and making sure that you do have a redundancy and a robustness behind that.
Right. So actually, it was interesting because the way you define those actually speaks to why I no longer use the term disaster recovery and business continuity, because you're right, they sound so much alike. So the way I communicate it now, and I wonder what you think, is I like the term information continuity and business continuity, because I think information continuity is kind of an analog to disaster recovery, where it's the recovery of, call it the recovery of the IT processing capability, right? And then business continuity is the recovery of the other business functions. Fair?
Oh, absolutely. Quick analogy here, right, between disaster recovery and business continuity. Here's a disaster that you might experience yourself, right? Having a flat tire in a car. Mm-hmm. You have a spare, you know how to change a tire. Most of us do anyway. I mean,
I think that might be a little bit of a lost art these days, especially as we go to run flats. But okay, well, I'm going to go with your analogies, even if I don't believe it fully.
I think you just ruined it. Now you run flat.
I did.
That was my DR plan. But anyway,
told me that I pretty much screw everything up, so I'm not surprised I screwed your story up. But go ahead. Let's pretend I didn't.
Yeah. So you know that there's time that it's going to take to change that tire and get back on the road, right? And the process that you're going to implement to get that new tire or your spare back on and get yourself back on the road. That's the disaster recovery piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. Your recovery time objective, right? How are you going to get back on that road? The business continuity plan is like, hey, you go get that tire, and they have it ready. It's inflated. It's ready to go. You just put it on, tighten those bolts, and get back on the road. A bad disaster recovery plan or a bad business continuity plan would be that you go get that tire and it's either missing, it's not inflated to the proper pressure, right? You put it on and it's flat as the other tire, and
or you don't know how to fix a flat,
you don't know how
right?
to fix it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you don't know where to, you don't know where to put the jack. And I saw that recently on the side of the road. I felt bad for someone I drove by. They didn't put the jack under the right, like they have that little notch now in the sides of cars. They put it in the wrong spot, and I drove by and the guy had creased like the whole doorway structure because he put it in the middle of the car. So so that's a business continuity plan.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
what could be AAA, right? Could be an alternate plan. Run flat tires, like you mentioned, et cetera, going from there.
Right, or like you said, or even having the phone number for AAA, right, and knowing that the phone number is up to date, or knowing that your membership with AAA is still current, right? Those are the kind of things. Yeah, I actually kind of like that analogy, even though I blew it up a second ago. So let me ask a question. So let's use the term information continuity and business continuity because I think that's clearer. So is information continuity, that DR, that backup, do you consider that just a given for all businesses? Like a lot of our people that listen to the show are, small to medium-sized enterprises, right? Anywhere from, 5 or 10 people up to, 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 people. Is that idea of IT continuity just a given? If you don't have that, you're in trouble?
Absolutely, John, because, actually one study comes to mind from FEMA. 40% of small businesses that they don't recover from an extended outage, right? Due to some kind of disaster or like I said before, extended outage. And another 25% of those companies fail within that first year that they're back in business because they didn't have a plan. They were out for an extended period of time and they weren't able to get back up and running. And unfortunately, the smaller businesses are a lot more vulnerable than the larger businesses. So that said, keeping the business going is important for survival, and a DR, BC plan is imperative, especially for those smaller businesses. Gotcha.
So when we talk about backups, right? For a typical 100-person firm, is there an easy strategy to deal with that? And what would that be? And I would assume that. I would think that the reason why I think it's almost essential these days is ransomware, right? I mean, if you don't have a backup plan and you do get hit by ransomware, you've got no ability to recover data. And we see company after company just literally closing their doors because they no longer have the data that they need to run the company.
Yeah, I mean, as a business owner, you have to ask yourself that, right? I mean, what's the most valuable piece of your business? And most of them, it is your data, right? It's not. Not really your facilities. I mean, even though some, manufacturing, if you're doing manufacturing or something in the facility, obviously that's pretty important to run your business. But the data is really, really the heart and soul of a business, and you have to protect it. And the number one way of protecting that data is having a valid backup.
Gotcha. Strategies for value perspective of on-site, off-site, cloud. What's your typical recommendation these days?
Well, actually both, right? I mean. First and foremost, you probably should have an on-site backup, right? An appliance that's backing up locally, and making sure that you do have, even for those file corruptions or somebody accidentally deletes a critical email or a file, you have that local replication that you can quickly restore that. Then taking that data that's been replicated on site and copying it off-site, right? To either 1, 2, or even 3 replications. Adding additional redundancy into that, geo-diversifying that data and putting it on both coasts or, north, south, or mid-Atlantic and getting it replicated even further or made redundant even further. So there's a lot of different redundancies that you can build into that data, but it definitely is important to get it at least off-site.
Yeah. So and I would say the other reason why I'm a big fan of offsite is just because anything which is persistently connected to the network is vulnerable to propagation of ransomware or something of that nature, right? So knowing that you've got a non-persistently connected cloud instance of that data is going to put you in a position that even if malware ran rampant on your network, you're still in a position that you've got the data that you need, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and God forbid, you might show up and your office could be a smoking hole, right? And those servers and the data that's in there.
Yeah, that's another good reason. Or I mean, here in Jersey, it's not that long ago that we had the hurricane, Sandy, and there were a lot of, especially a lot of government municipalities that lost a lot of data due to flooding.
Sure.
So question for you. So one of the things which is a really interesting development is increasingly I'm speaking with SMBs. In fact, this afternoon I spoke with a firm. They were 90 people, very significant company, and they have literally no office, right? And they're cloud first, right? So everything's in the cloud pretty much. How does that impact the concept of data recovery or data backups in IT continuity?
Right. So really taking two different perspectives here. I mean, the first thing is obviously it's adding a lot of, or I should say more robustness to your data, right? Because you're putting it up in the cloud. It's dispersed in the cloud. It's actually probably replicated throughout several different sites in the cloud. It's definitely making it much more resilient. It's probably in a facility that's a lot more resilient also. It could be in a tiered data center. It's not sitting in your broom closet in your office. So
yeah, I've seen a few of those.
Yeah, I mean it's a majority sometimes. But yeah, so it's up there. But with that said, a lot of times it doesn't mean it's backed up, right? Because your email is in Office 365 in Microsoft doesn't necessarily mean that it's backed up. I still encourage our customers to do a backup of any cloud instances that they have, just so that you have that, because unfortunately that cloud or that instance could go away, right? I mean, it's never enough protection there. But that said, I mean, obviously, working from almost anywhere is something you could do with the cloud, right? If you can access your data from anywhere, wherever you are, obviously, providing you have power and you have connectivity, which a lot of customers say that, hey, I could work from home, but unfortunately, if it's a regional affecting outage, you won't have power or connectivity from your house or Starbucks or anywhere else where you might work. But it has actually improved, business continuity for a lot of smaller business and medium and enterprise businesses.
Yeah, so I was asking specifically because it's intriguing to me about from an IT continuity, from the data backups perspective. So when you think about that, like I do believe that Microsoft probably has that data replicated in multiple places, and I think that you probably can trust Microsoft or Salesforce or someone of that nature. When you get down into a smaller software as a service company, yeah, I think it's a very interesting strategy, and I'm amazed how rarely we see people that actually are getting backups of data from their SaaSes. In fact, I've been told by multiple people that the SaaSes have said that they have no mechanism to provide them with this data. So, it's interesting, like a lot of our law firm clients run on a platform called NetDocuments. Now, I will say that NetDocuments actually has a very elegant solution, for ensuring that all of the client matters, right, all of the matters of law, they have a mechanism by which they'll back it up automatically to another data center for you that you're in control of. And I think that's just an awesome solution. And I wish more SaaSes made it, clear and upfront and easy to do.
Right.
So I think you said earlier, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't think you have a choice but to have a information backup IT continuity plan as a small business, given the risks that we talked about. When do you get to a point that you really need to start thinking about a more formal business continuity plan, right? Especially now that you got the coronavirus thing going on, which is a different, so there's different drivers, right, that might cause us to get to that point. Where do you think a firm gets to in terms of size or revenue? Like, how do you know when you need a business? If someone's listening, how do they know if they need a business continuity plan? They should go to ask the IT guy, like, hey, do we have one of these?
Well, John, I think every customer should have some idea of where, how to recover from anything that could happen. I don't know if it's something about size or revenue. I mean, really, you have to ask yourself a couple of basic questions. How long can you survive, or your business can survive in an outage? And not just looking at the business itself from a revenue perspective, but looking at it from a reputation perspective, right? I mean, It's a Wonderful Life comes to mind, right? That movie that comes around Christmas time, where they all show up and the bank is closed and they're all looking to get their money out, and creates pandemonium.
George Bailey, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that his name?
I think so, right?
Jimmy Stewart, right? It's George
Yes,
Bailey.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean,
An angel got her wings. An angel,
Yeah.
yes, Haley. An angel got her wings. Not that I've ever seen it before. I mean, I'm not
it's
old enough to have seen it. My mother told me about that movie.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a holiday classic.
Right.
But so really, how long can you survive, right? Like I said, reputation is involved there. Unless your business is a little lifestyle hobby that you have, and it's just funding some extra income. I don't think that there's a lot of those out there, but your business is important, and you need to keep it up and running, right? So how long can you survive, right? I mean, if it's most outages, maybe 2 or 3 days, whatever. If you can sustain that, then maybe you don't need a business continuity plan, right? But you should still figure out, at least protecting your data, figuring out if there is an extended outage, where do I go work? How do I recover my systems? And if my data goes away, how do I start from scratch? Which hopefully nobody has to make that decision. But I don't think it's a matter of size or revenue or anything like that. I mean, if you have a business, you have to ask yourself those questions and then make that determination of how formal that business continuity plan should be. But you should have at least an idea of how to keep your business up and running from, even a one-person shop, right?
Okay.
Doesn't
So
matter.
it's not size, it's not revenue. It is based on what you do and what is a period of time that your business not being able to deliver that service or product would be acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So from your perspective, how much does that differ for different types of outages, right? I mean, so we might have a situation where no one can come to work because of the coronavirus, right? We're seeing that right now in China. I mean, some of the pictures of the stores with no one in them is staggering, right? Or there's no workers that are coming in because of that reason. Or you got floods. You've got a building being unenterable based on maybe a chemical spill or a fire. Like, does it change? Like, does your strategy on what your business continuity plan change based on the types of things that are potentially going to occur?
I would say yes. I mean, but it can be based on a few different aspects of your business, right? I mean, number one, like you mentioned, coronavirus, right? That's a resource affecting problem, right? I mean, you're going to need people to run your business, right? I mean, pandemic, epidemic, whatever. People can't get to work, or maybe they're too sick to even work. How do you keep your business going that way? It's a little bit different than, like I said before, your building becomes a smoking hole or is gone. You can't access it, right? It might be 2 feet underwater. Where do you work from, and how does workplace recovery come into play? Right, and then again, there's data, right? Again, we keep going back to data. Like, how if it's not, your primary data store becomes corrupt, how quickly can you recover from your backup? That brings up a good point. Just because you have a backup doesn't mean that instantaneously you can recover from it, right? I mean, it's going to take time. And if you're a trader and or a financial company and you can't recover that data quickly, and that's critical to run your business, that's something you have to take into consideration, right? That recovery time objective. How quickly can you get that data back up and running? So all these different types of silos here, you have to have a plan for each one of those.
Right.
So each one is a little bit different.
Right. So let's say that we agree that we need a plan, right? The process of that plan is, give me like a 10,000-foot view of how you go about developing a business continuity plan.
Well, you start with obviously, again, it's people, your systems, and your workplace. I think is the top three areas that you need to focus in, right? I mean, let's start with workplace. Can you operate from dispersed locations away from a central site? If you're a call center or service desk, sometimes you need to collaborate amongst each others. It might not be, you might not be able to run from different locations, right? So you have to find a place where you can all work together. That's where workplace recovery comes in. Your data, like I think we spoke about that already. How quickly can we get it back up? What applications are critical? how many of those applications that you need and how much of that data you need to run your business, right? At least from a point of you could do your day-to-day business, right? I mean, you might not have all the luxuries of having all your applications running at the same time, but it could be your collaboration, your payroll, the top 2 or 3 or 4 applications that you need to run your business. How quickly can you get those back online? That's a key component that you need to measure and figure out for your plan. And lastly is people, right? How many people do I need to keep the lights on, right? To keep this business running? Do I need all, like you mentioned, your business you spoke about before, 90 people to run in a recovery type of situation, or can I run with a tiger team of 10 or 15 that I have set up to kind of run the business sort of like in a disabled state?
Gotcha. So if I oversimplified it, right, this business continuity plan is, it's something which is going to be our roadmap in the event that crap hits the fan, right? It's going to be, who do I need to get in touch with? How do I get in touch with them? For different scenarios, certain different systems, different people not being available, it's going to give me the logical branches to follow to get to a point where my business, while it might not be fully functional, right, it's not going to be fully crippled. And then it's going to give me a strategy to recover the business in accordance with business criticality of the different functions.
Exactly.
Cool. Cool. Anything we didn't touch on when it comes to DRBCP? You mentioned workspace recovery. So define workspace recovery, because that's something that I don't think most people think about when they think about business continuity.
Yeah, so workplace recovery is really having a place to go and run your business, right? It's usually in a robust facility that has backup power, N plus power, meaning, they have generators, they have ways of keeping the lights on there. They have multiple points of connectivity, could have multiple carriers. Your typical data centers and robust facilities that have those types of functions are great for workplace recovery, right? At Continuity Centers, that's one of our primary businesses, right? We have facilities throughout the United States that we can provide workplace for customers. So that's really what you have to look at. I mean, obviously, a Starbucks or your home might not be available during an outage.
It's funny, really funny. I've never really thought of it that way. Typically when I think of workspace recovery, I think of companies that, let's say, have like a call center, or they've got a reason why everyone has to work from one location. And when I think about our business continuity plan, basically says, people can work from wherever they are because we're largely cloud-based, and as long as we can get to a PC and get to our cloud-based services and get to and have a phone, we're okay. But without power, none of that stuff really works. So actually, that's kind of been interesting. Even companies that are largely dispersed and have that type of a concept, having a place to go where they know there's going to be power and internet connectivity might actually be more important. Like, I never thought about that. So that's pretty cool. So I always like to ask a fun question. So I'm going to ask you, I usually ask this question about a CISO, but I'll give it to you for a DRBCP lead. So if you think about either a fictional character or a real person, what would make somebody either a fantastic, an amazing, or a horrible DRBCP lead, and why?
So we have to think of, I guess, guys that had a pretty good plan, right? So I'm almost afraid to bring this guy's name up, but Rudy Giuliani back in 9/11, he really stepped up as a leader for the 2 or 3 days after that terrible event happened in New York. He helped mobilize a lot of teams. He took that role as a leadership. And I was very impressed with that whole activity of bringing the city back together after that horrible event. Another good character, I mean, more on the light side, I guess, would be like a courageous cat. A lot of listeners probably not old enough to remember that guy.
Yeah, anyone who's listening right now is like Googling courageous cat.
Yeah. Well, if you know Courageous Cat, he was similar to Batman, but it was a cat and a mouse. Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse. And Courageous Cat was a cartoon character that basically had a belt full of different guns. And these guns all did something specific.
That sounds a lot like Batman to me.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. But that was the original Batman. Then it got all kind of crazy and
so dark. You're saying Batman ripped off Courageous Cat? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I think so. Right. Similar, because I mean, I remember Batman from the TV show, and again, I'm making myself feel so old here, but the original TV show when the the Joker or the Penguin showed up, the whole screen would go slanty, which meant crooked. I had to learn that myself, but those were the crooks, and it was crooked screen, so there was no guessing. And now, the new Marvel shows, now you have to watch the whole thing. It's like, what just happened here? It's way too much complexity.
You got to interpret. I mean, the good old days. The good old days of TV. Yeah. So going back to Rudy Giuliani, and not from a politics perspective, because I don't like to talk politics, but I do think that a lot of people would say that New York City did a remarkably good job of recovering. What was it? Is it that they had a good preparation? I mean, is that really what it was? I mean, I know that New York City, having done a lot of work for the city of New York, they put a lot of time, energy, and effort into those types of things. Do you think that was really what was it a preparation thing that made them be so successful?
Yeah. I mean, I think I worked down in the in that area during the first attack when the fertilizer bomb exploded in the basement of the World Trade Center there, and same type of stuff. I mean, it was pretty scary, and I think that was an eye opener for a lot of the emergency crews in New York and the response units, and they were pretty prepped. I mean, obviously now there's probably a lot more planning into that, but I think there was a lot of a lot of people coming together and working together and working as a team and just the camaraderie and all the different pieces that happened after that event were really remarkable. And that's, I mean, kind of on a smaller level, but that's really what a good business continuity plan is, right? If you can execute it and bring your business back into functionality or productivity as quickly and as efficiently as possible, I mean, that's really what notes a good business continuity plan. And you won't be able to know that until you really test it, right? So that's a key point of any plan, is to test it and make sure that it works.
Right. So I just want you to know that I am never going to be able to see Rudy Giuliani again without thinking of Courageous Cat. So thanks for putting that thought in my head.
How about the bad guys? You didn't ask me about the guys who didn't have a plan.
All right. So I didn't know you had more to give. All right, let's go.
It's the last piece here, the Titanic, right? I mean, think of that, and I think it was Edward John Smith was the captain of the Titanic, and that was terrible. That was a terrible disaster, right? I mean, a lot of people perished, and they didn't have enough lifeboats, right? And that's a key thing, right? I mean, not having a workplace recovery is not like not having enough lifeboats for certain companies that need a workplace to work together. People were leaving the boat, from what I read, and these lifeboats weren't fully populated.
Terrible story.
Yeah, leaving people behind, and that's not a good execution of a plan, right? I mean, it's just.
Well, they did, like you said, they didn't have a plan.
No, exactly.
Yeah. That's actually a really fantastic example that I never thought of. So that one that one I'm going to steal from you.
Yep.
I'm going to tell them it was my idea.
I got one more for you on the bad side.
You said one more, and I already gave you one more.
Well, I have two one more. But you got to make it even.
All right, make it fast. I mean, the Titanic was so good. Are you sure? You're probably going to screw this up.
Well, it
was a high watermark. You don't want to end there?
On the vein of the same, it was similar to Courageous Cat, Wile E. Coyote. He didn't have a plan.
Yes, he did. It said Acme on the front cover. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Well, think all the money he spent on all that stuff. He could have probably bought a huge dinner, right? Instead of trying to catch that damn Roadrunner. But if you strap a rocket onto your back and a pair of roller skates, it's not going to end well. So that's a bad VR leader right there.
All right. Well, and on that note, and as Jeremy Clarkson would say, and on that bombshell, last question for you. So, you speak every day, like we do here with folks in the SME space. Any interesting topics you think we should think about for other episodes?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're in IT, you've heard of IoT, right? I mean, Internet of Threats.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the Internet of Things.
And by the way, it's also the Internet of Threats. Yeah, I wasn't going to correct you. I wasn't going to correct you because I actually think threats and things are probably pretty analogous at this point.
Yeah. I think we're bringing a lot more technology into our own lives and into our businesses, right? And bringing this artificial intelligence and IoT and things that are automatically happening for us. It's more things to watch and more things to pay attention to, and I think that that's super important. And think about even from a DR perspective and a business continuity, if a lot of your business is running automatically without manual intervention, and that stuff goes away, you're going to have to be manual again. If you're like me, I won't be able, if my GPS goes away, I probably won't be able to find my way to the corner of my block. But I become so reliant on that technology, you don't even think about it. But, the more technology.
But you can call Courageous Cat. You can call Courageous Cat. You'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The IoT, and actually, it's fascinating to me. In the last, if you talk 2 years ago, we really didn't have many conversations around IoT. We've got 2 or 3 huge projects going on right now that are just absolutely fascinating. So I agree with you completely. And I don't think people understand the level of impact that IoT has on their everyday life. I mean, just with this stupid stuff in your house. I mean, if you look at, and I won't use the word because she might wake up or he might wake up, but all of these smart speakers and devices that we have in our house, and the smart thermostats and the smartphones and this, yeah, they're all devices that are communicating up to the internet. Your car is communicating to the internet, right? Cars are starting to communicate with each other in smart car technology. And then you get into the Internet of Bodies, which is even more amazing, is that all of these wearable devices, implantable devices, injectable devices, right? They're all visible on the internet. So now there's a new whole field called the Internet of Bodies, and talking about the threats associated with that. So
Yes.
that's a good one. And we definitely have some stuff planned for that. So that's cool. So thank you for coming on. Genuinely appreciate it. Before we leave, if folks want to get in touch with yourself, they want to get in touch with Business Continuity Centers, Wekos, how would they do that?
Well, my email address is cgazzani@wekos.net. That's the shorter version, or I could do continuitycenters.com.
Yeah.
That's the quickest way. And I think that's, we could set up that way. I mean, check out our website, continuitycenters.com. There's links there to go to wekos.net. Again, It's kind of split up between disaster recovery, business continuity, and then the managed services side. So we take care of the production as well as the backup and replication side too. So it's about resiliency. And really that's when you think DR and business continuity, and even your production side, it's all about being resilient.
So it's really interesting that you should say that, and it's a good note to leave on, is that seems to be the emphasis now. So if you look at all the new guidance coming out of the government, especially around the OCIE and SEC guidance, that's the term that they're using now, is resilient. Because I think resilient combines the concepts of secure and available. So I think that's a good note to leave on. Thanks, Cosmo.